5. The affectionate ragdoll. 4. The gentle Maine Coon giant. 3. The talkative Siamese. 2. The Velcro Burmese. And 1. The peaceful Burman. Top 5 affectionate cat breeds. Maine Coons are gentle giants. Siamese cats are talkative. Burmese are Velcro cats.
What if I told you that the whole, aloof, independent cat sitting at the edge of the table making direct eye contact with you while slowly pushing a water glass onto the floor is actually kind of a biological myth?
Right, it totally is.
Yeah, so today we are looking at felines genetically hardwired to act more like Velcro and others that basically turn into a puddle of water the second you pick them up.
It completely upends the cultural expectation we have of cats as these solitary predators who are just using our houses for free rent.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when you dive into the research, you realize feline affection isn't just this monolithic behavior. It's an incredibly diverse spectrum of emotional vocabularies.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have this really fascinating source guide today called Gentle Giants and Velvet Companions, a guide to affectionate felines. And our mission for you on this deep dive is to completely shatter that aloof cat stereotype.
Yes, that is the goal.
We're going to explore how 5 distinct breeds express love and companionship, and more importantly, the underlying mechanisms of why they behave the way they do. So we aren't just looking at cute pets here.
No, not at all.
We are looking at how genetics, environment, and even human engineering have shaped the way these animals connect with us.
Which is such a vital framing for anyone listening, honestly. Because bringing a cat into your life is, well, it's fundamentally a complex psychological matching process.
Right.
You are trying to align your daily human routine with an animal's specific environmental and emotional needs.
Yeah.
And the variance in those needs across different breeds is just staggering.
The sheer variety is wild. I mean, to make sense of it, let's look at this chronologically, starting with the largest breeds on the list. The cats whose affection is rooted in intense physical presence but very low reactivity.
Heavyweights of hugs.
Exactly, the heavyweights. And that begins with the ragdoll, originating in the U.S. in the 1960s. The source guide literally calls them the gold standard of affection.
Visually, they are striking. I mean, they have that classic color point coat and those massive blue eyes. But the name ragdoll is actually derived from a very specific, highly unusual neuromuscular response.
Wait, the thing where they go limp?
Yeah, exactly. When you pick them up, they just go completely limp.
See, I really want to dig into the mechanics of that because it sounds totally counterintuitive to basic survival instincts. Like, if I pick up an average cat, even a super friendly one, I can feel their muscles tense up.
Right, they're bracing themselves.
Yeah, they're constantly orienting themselves to gravity, ready to deploy that famous righting reflex to land on their feet. So how does a ragdoll just busses millions of years of fight-or-flight evolution?
Well, that is the core of what makes them so unique. Through selective breeding, humans essentially muted that underlying baseline of physical tension.
Wow.
Yeah, standard feline maintains a high resting muscle tone as a survival mechanism, right? But the ragdoll's physiology has been engineered to prioritize relaxation over readiness when handled by a trusted human.
That's crazy.
They essentially surrender to the physical contact. It's just a profound display of engineered trust.
It's basically like interacting with a parasympathetic nervous system hack. You hold them and they just melt. It's like having a living weighted blanket.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
But the guide notes they aren't invasive. Like, they just want to be in your orbit. They follow you from room to room, essentially acting as this silent, calming anchor.
And that specific brand of affection, highly physical but non-vocal, makes them perfectly suited for confined living situations. So if you live in an apartment or have a quiet family environment, a ragdoll provides a grounding presence without, demanding constant interactive stimulation.
Right.
But that extreme docility introduces a significant physiological vulnerability.
Oh, right, the waistline issue. The guide highlights that they need strict diet control to prevent obesity, which, makes total sense when you think about it energetically.
It really does.
If their default state is limp puddle of fur, they aren't exactly burning calories via those manic 3 a.m. house zooming sessions.
Yeah. Exactly. Their basal metabolic rate might be similar to other cats, but their daily energy expenditure is drastically lower. If you feed a ragdoll the same free choice kibble diet you'd feed an active outdoor cat, that living weighted blanket will quickly become clinically obese.
Yikes.
Yeah, You have to actively manage their intake because their engineered temperament doesn't naturally drive them to burn it off.
Which is the perfect contrast to our other heavyweight, a cat that actually does burn calories. The Maine Coon. Also from the US, and this is where I actually had to stop and reread the data in our sources.
Like their size.
Yes. The males routinely reach 8 to 10 kilograms. That is a massive animal.
They are naturally occurring giants. Unlike the ragdoll, which was heavily human-engineered in the 60s for temperament, the Maine Coon's physical traits are a product of brutal natural selection.
Right.
They evolved to survive the freezing, harsh climates of early New England.
Their biology is basically winter survival gear. I mean, they have tufted ears to protect against frostbite, a long, dense tail they can wrap around their face for warmth, and fur that is literally water-resistant.
That water-resistant coat is such a fascinating evolutionary adaptation. The guard hairs are incredibly dense and coated in natural oils, meaning freezing rain and snow simply slide off, insulating the softer undercoat.
Like a biological dry suit.
Exactly.
But here is where I have to push back on the profile a bit, or at least ask for the biological logic here.
Okay, go for it.
We have this massive, rugged apex predator built for the tundra, yet the guide describes them as highly sociable, patient with kids, fascinated by water, and capable of learning tricks. Wait, a massive animal that loves water, learns tricks, and follows you around. Are we sure this isn't just the golden retriever disguised as a cat?
I know, it sounds a bit ridiculous.
Right. Why would a solitary winter survivor evolve to be this cooperative?
It seems like a paradox, but it makes perfect sense when you factor in human agriculture. Yes, the climate shaped their bodies, but early American farmers shaped their brains.
Oh, interesting.
Cats that thrived in Maine weren't the hyper-aggressive feral ones. They were the ones smart enough to move into human barns for warmth. And farmers needed highly effective ratters that were also docile enough not to attack the farmhands or the children.
So high intelligence, low aggression, and a cooperative nature were actually selected for.
Precisely. That agricultural history translates today into a highly intelligent companion. They learn tricks easily because their ancestors had to figure out complex environments.
And the water thing.
They're fascinated by water because physically, their skin just doesn't feel the sudden, shocking chill of getting wet like a normal cat does. And interestingly, they communicate with very soft, gentle meows.
I found that detail hilarious. A 10-kilogram cat that basically whispers at you.
It's very sweet.
So we have this narrative through line so far of physical giants who express affection through quiet presence. But we need to pivot sharply here. If the ragdoll and Maine Coon are relaxing company, the next group of cats are active, demanding partners.
Oh, completely. We are moving into the intense emotional anchors. These are cats whose affection is highly interactive, vocal, and deeply intertwined with their owner's daily routine.
Yeah, if the ragdoll is a slow Sunday morning, these cats are a high-stress Tuesday meeting. Let's look at the Siamese. This is an ancient breed from Thailand, historically Siam, slender, muscular, large ears, striking blue eyes. But their defining trait isn't visual, it's auditory. The guide calls them conversationalists.
Which might be a huge understatement. Siamese cats do not just meow when they're hungry. They have developed a massive, highly nuanced vocabulary of sounds, and they use them to actively communicate or even direct their humans.
Reading about them honestly reminded me of user interface design. It's like they have figured out the exact acoustic feedback loop required to trigger a caretaking response in the human brain.
That's spot on.
They don't just yell, they modulate their pitch depending on whether they want a door opened, a toy found, or just to complain that a bird flew away. They sound like that one friend who sends you 10-minute voice notes about their day.
That is an incredibly accurate way to frame it. They have essentially hacked human psychology through sound. And this vocalization is tightly tied to their fierce bonding style.
Right.
Unlike the Maine Coon, which is happy to just be in the same room as the family, the Siamese typically forms a profound, singular attachment to one or two people.
The source material even notes they can get intensely jealous if you pay attention to other animals.
Oh, absolutely. They demand to be the focal point of your environment. That intelligence means they require challenging puzzle toys and daily focused interaction.
And physically.
Medically, they don't need much brushing due to their short coat, but the guide notes they are predisposed to respiratory and dental issues, so that requires proactive veterinary monitoring.
Okay, so the Siamese uses vocal intensity to maintain a bond. Now let's look at the Burmese, which takes intensity in a completely different, highly physical direction. Originating in Myanmar, though the modern breed was truly codified in the 1930s, the guide calls the Burmese the ultimate Velcro cat.
And Velcro captures the physical mechanics of their affection perfectly. If the Siamese wants to talk to you from the counter, the Burmese wants to be physically attached to your hip while you stand at the counter.
Wow.
Yeah, they will climb onto your shoulders, sleep under the blankets pressed against your side, and just relentlessly seek physical contact.
They also play fetch, which is a fascinating overlap with the Maine Coon's intelligence. But here is the major red flag I saw in the sources. The guide states that because they are so intensely bonded, the Burmese genuinely suffers if they experience prolonged loneliness.
Yes, they really do.
So if this is a Velcro cat that requires constant proximity, isn't that a potential recipe for disaster for the modern, busy listener who works in an office all day?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a recipe for severe behavioral issues. This is exactly why we stress that picking a breed is about matching lifestyles.
Right.
The Burmese possesses a neurological need for proximity. When left alone for extended periods, their cortisol levels spike. They experience profound separation anxiety because their bred-in pack mentality is being fundamentally frustrated.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. They are truly only ideal for people who work from home or households that have other highly social pets to act as emotional surrogates while the humans are gone.
You just cannot adopt a cat that genetically requires your presence and then vanish for the whole day. Also, a quick practical note like the ragdoll, the Burmese tends to overeat, so their food intake needs strict monitoring too. But I want to go back to the history you mentioned because the sources detail a genetic link here that explains everything.
The 1930s cross.
Yeah. The Burmese breed from the 1930s was actually created by crossing a Burman with a Siamese.
And those genetics explain the entire behavioral profile. The breeders essentially took the Siamese hardware and tried to rewrite the software. From the Siamese ancestor, the Burmese inherited the staggering intelligence, the intense loyalty, and that dog-like ability to learn commands.
But they successfully muted the voice, right? Because the guide notes the Burmese has a much softer, more melodic meow compared to the piercing demand of a Siamese.
Exactly. They turned the volume down on the vocalizations, but the consequence of that genetic isolation was turning the physical clinginess up to 11.
Wow.
The energy that the Siamese expends in vocalizing, the Burmese expends in demanding physical contact.
It's fascinating how selective breeding works like a slider board. You pull down the vocal trait, and the physical attachment trait just shoots through the roof.
It really is a zero-sum game sometimes.
So we've explored the extremes, the massive, heavy, silent giants, and the intense, vocal, Velcro-like clingers. If you are listening to this and you are feeling a little overwhelmed, you might be asking, well, is there a middle ground? What is the baseline for someone who just wants a predictable, balanced companion?
For that, the source guide points us toward what we could call the golden mean of feline affection, the Burman.
The Burman, developed in France despite the ancient myths tying them to temples in Myanmar. Visually, they look like a slightly smaller ragdoll with that semi-long coat, the color point coloring, and the vivid blue eyes.
Very striking.
But they have this one aesthetic detail the guide mentions. Perfect white gloves on all four paws.
Yeah, the white gloves are their hallmark physical trait, dictated by a very specific recessive gene. But beyond the aesthetics, the Burman is defined by his coat mechanics and its psychological equilibrium.
Okay, let's look at the coat first. It is semi-long, but uniquely silky.
Right, and the guide says it doesn't easily knot or mat, which is a huge deal for anyone who has ever tried to brush a squirming, angry, long-haired cat.
Oh, absolutely. So if you love the look of the rag doll, but want a cat whose fur doesn't turn into a tangled mess, the Burman is your go-to. Why doesn't it tangle?
It comes down to the absence of a dense undercoat. Breeds like the Maine Coon have a thick, woolly underlayer designed to trap heat, which is what causes severe matting.
Ah, okay.
The Burman's fur is essentially a single silky layer. It requires minimal maintenance, just brushing once or twice a week, which removes a huge friction point between the cat and a beginner owner.
You just have to watch out for eye tearing, which is a minor grooming task. But let's talk about that psychological equilibrium you mentioned. Why is the Burman the ultimate baseline for beginners or kids or seniors?
Well, think about the spectrum we just mapped out. The Burman likes lap time and affection, but they lack the neurological desperation of the Burmese.
Right, they aren't going to suffer a panic attack if you leave the house.
Exactly. And they are present and communicative, but their voice is described as almost a whisper. They aren't going to yell at you from across the room like a Siamese.
They are polite. They sit nicely in the middle of the feline affection bell curve.
They really do. They are exceptionally calm, rarely scratching or biting, and they adapt beautifully to tranquil environments. They don't require the intense environmental enrichment of a Maine Coon or the constant interactive puzzle solving of a Siamese. They just provide a deeply predictable, gentle presence.
So as we synthesize all of this, it is crystal clear that the myth of the aloof, solitary cat is just that, a myth.
Yeah.
We've seen how feline affection is highly specialized. You have the neuromuscular surrender of the ragdoll.
The rugged, cooperative companionship of the Maine Coon.
Right. The vocal, psychological loyalty of the Siamese.
Constant, intense physical shadow of the Burmese.
The engineered, polite, whispered presence of the Burman.
And the overarching takeaway for you, the listener, is that choosing a cat is about matching your lifestyle. Whether you live in a quiet apartment, work from home, or have a bustling family.
Yep.
You need to align your routine with the cat's specific emotional vocabulary and physical needs. Respecting those mechanics is how you build a successful bond.
It really shifts how you look at the animal sitting in your living room right now. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on.
Well, I like this.
We've discussed these incredibly specialized behaviors: a cat that goes completely limp in your arms, a cat that plays fetch, a cat that acts like literal Velcro. Given how incredibly specific these affection traits are, how much of this affection is actually natural, wild, feline instinct?
Right.
And how much of it is the result of humans selectively breeding these animals purely to satisfy our own emotional need for connection?
It's a great question. It forces us to ask if we are observing natural love, or if we have simply engineered a mirror to reflect exactly what we want love to look like.
Something to ponder the next time your cat curls up in your lap or, yells at you for dinner. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.